Hello there, welcome back to Jennie Designs with Paper, and thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. It's good to be back. I have a couple of birthday cards for you, so get comfy and let's get crafty. I am going to be using this Avery Elle Snowman stamp set. This is a holiday stamp set, but we're going to create birthday cards, winter birthday cards. I have selected 3 groups of colors to color our snow. I have a gray family, a blue family, and a purple family. I will be stamping the snowman in Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink because it is Copic friendly, and I will be stamping on Nina Solar White Classic Crest 80-pound cardstock, and I will be using Inkadinkado masking paper to mask off some areas. The first thing we need to do is get these 3 card fronts stamped with our snowman. I am going to stamp all 3 cards the same so that we have a relatively fair comparison of the different colors of snow, or rather the shadows on the snow, because snow's white. We are not coloring the snow so much as we are adding the shadows so that the snow doesn't look uncolored. I am going to place the snowman down here at the kind of bottom 1/3 section of each of the panels of Nina cardstock, and I will go ahead and pick up the stamp with my stamp positioner. This is a discolored, used many times, much loved snowman. I think he is super cute, and it's perfect for Christmas or just those winter birthday cards. It's a very usable stamp. So it looks a little bit like I've loved on it a lot, because I have. I am going to go ahead and stamp this up in that Simon Says Stamp Intense Black. There's the color. My brain's still catching up. My body's feeling good. My brain is still catching up. Once I have stamped all 3 panels, I will also be stamping the snowman on a piece of that stamping mask paper. We're going to do a little bit of ink blending in the background to create the sky. I don't want to waste that much stamp or masking paper, so I'm going to flip this around the other way and make sure I've lined it up just right. Anyways, we are going to do a little bit of ink blending to put the sky into the background, and then just use the Copics to color the snowman and the snow on the ground. So I have sped this up like a ton, but one thing you will notice even at super fast speed is that I have a pair of very thin, sharp scissors, and my scissors aren't moving much. My paper in my left hand is moving around, and my scissors are kind of maintaining their one position. And that is the best way to get a clean cut when you are fussy cutting. So the first thing I need to do is put the mask down on my snowman. Now, I have used Inkadinkado masking paper for years, and this is a new package, and it is sticky. It was a little bit harder to work with this time than I remember it being before. Don't know what that's all about, but it's okay. We got through it. I am going to put this kind of curvy edge down toward the bottom half of the snowman. And then I have Speckled Egg Distress Oxide ink, and I am just going to take a foam blending tool, whatever that thingy in my right hand is, a foam blending tool, and blend in that sky. And now we're going to start with our grays. So I have a C00, a C0, and a C1. And I'm starting with the lightest and moving toward the darkest and then backwards. And my marker here is kind of blooping. I don't know what the right word there would be. Spewing a little bit of extra ink out onto my card panel, but that's okay because it's my lightest color. It will be fine. I am adding some shadows to the snowbank behind the snowbank under the snowman, and I'm creating a snowbank in front of the snowman. You will also notice that I'm not coloring in the entire snowman. I am just adding shadows. So I'm putting a shadow under the hat, a shadow under the nose, a shadow at the top and the bottom of the scarf, and shadows along the sides and the bottom of the snowman body. When you are coloring white images, you want to leave white in, you want to leave some of the white paper plain, but you have to add the shadows so that it reads white, not I didn't color this. Does that make sense? I don't know. We are now into our second lightest color, and now I'm going into with my third or my darkest color. And you can see that because there's not a lot of other color on the page, it does look a little bit deep and dramatic. But once we have that blended back out, like I said, I'm going from lightest to darkest and backwards again. Once we have those shadows blended out and the rest of the image colored, all you will see is the shadows in the snow. So I'm going to use 2 of the E30s for the branches for the snowman arms, just laying a little bit of the darker color down on the bottom and the lighter on the top. Now, because I want these to be birthday cards, I'm not going to use red and green for the hat and the scarf, obviously, even though it does look a bit like a snowman hat. For this particular card, I'm going to use a light green and a light pink because I think it looks pretty. That's why. There is literally no other reason except that I think it looks pretty. So I have some G20, 21, 23, I think is the color combination, and then the E8 or the R80s for the pinks, 81, 83, 85, something like that. I did not remember to write down the colors, so I hope you can catch the lids if you like that color combination. I was just coloring to color at this point because my technique or the thing I wanted to show was the coloring of the shadows of the snow. So I didn't pay attention to what other colors I grabbed out of my Copic collection. With the hat and the scarf, I am doing the same thing that I did with the snowman. I am starting lightest to darkest and going backwards, laying in the shadows first and then filling it in. I did pull out a couple of oranges, like an E7 or a Y7 and a Y9, YR7, YR9 to do the nose. Okay, so obviously this is fast forwarded, and I have edited out the reapplying of the masks because it was a little bit finicky. And I am going ahead with the sky background on the second card panel, and we are using our Bs, our blues. I have B, quadruple zero, triple zero, and double zero. And I'm starting with the lightest and going to the darkest. And I think of all of the 3 colors, this is the color combination where the shadows are maybe the least dramatic at first, and then they get more dramatic, but then they look less dramatic again. So normally when I'm coloring snow, I use whichever color combination works best with whatever else I'm using. If I'm using a pattern paper that has blue tints, I go for the blues. If I am using a scene card that is not using pattern paper, then I probably would use the grays or maybe a gray and purple combination. But I tend to match the shadows in my snowman or in my snow with whatever else is going on the card I'm creating, which, is probably legitimate because the shadows would kind of be reflective when we're talking about shadows on white objects, especially wet white objects or icy white objects. So you can see that this blue is getting a little bit more dramatic, and I'm on the darkest color now. And then when I go to blend it out, some of that drama fades back into the background like it's supposed to for a minute. For the hat and the scarf, I'm going with some darker blues and some mid-tone greens. Again, trying to not have it read Christmas and starting with the lightest, adding and kind of dropping in the shadows, going toward the darkest of my 3 colors and then back out again. The method of going lightest to darkest when I am coloring is, for me, it seems like the most logical, but sometimes I skip it. Sometimes I start with the darkest and go straight to the lightest. It depends on how big the image is and how much detail is in the image. When you start with your lightest and work toward the darkest and back, you get the paper nice and saturated, and that is how the Copic ink blends, is by saturating the paper. So there are colorists and card makers who start with their darkest color, wow, words are hard, and blend toward the lightest color. But I think really what matters is what you feel is most comfortable for your coloring style and how you get the best results. And it just takes practice. I enjoy coloring. I might not be like the OG, right? I'm not the GOAT. But I do think that the results, for the most part, that I get, I am pleased with. So here we are, we're headed into our third card front, and this is our purples. These are BVs, blue violets, and I'm starting with quadruple zero, triple zero, and double zero. And the same thing, I am just putting pigment down where the shadows would hit. I'm not filling in the entire snowman belly. I am adding shadows to the snowbank behind, underneath, and then creating a snowbank in front of the snowman again. And I've tried to create a similar look on all three card fronts so that there really is a real comparison there, right? It doesn't make a lot of sense to have compare and contrast when they're completely different. Because that's not what we're comparing and contrasting. We are literally comparing and contrasting the colors you can use to create shadows in snow. So anyways, I'm babbling, sorry. I am getting into the purples here, and this is my darkest color. I feel like the purple reads the coldest, and the gray reads the warmest, even though I used a cool gray. But that's just my perception, and that's just how I'm seeing it now as I'm doing the voiceover. I feel like the purple looks the coolest, so I don't know. Let me know what you think. Tell me which one you think is the coolest looking, which one is the warmest looking. And also, I would love to hear your comment below. What do you use to color shadows in snow? If you're using alcohol markers, do you use grays, blues? I mean, tell me your color combination below. I know there have been times I've used purples and grays together or blues and grays together to get the effect I was looking for. So, for this last snowman's hat and scarf, I am using oranges and yellows. So these are YRs for the darker tones and Ys for the yellow. I think the yellows were 11, 13, and 15, and I don't even remember what the oranges were. Yeah, like I said before, I was more focused on choosing colors for the snow shadows. But, I just was trying to avoid using reds and greens together because I am creating these as birthday cards, like I said, and I don't really want them to read Christmas. If you have a winter birthday, or if you love somebody who has a winter birthday, you know how hard it is to keep those things separate. Now that I have all of the coloring done, I'm going to place all three card panels back into my MISTI and overstamp them because I didn't stamp the greatest the first time, but I wasn't super worried about it because I knew I wanted to go back and overstamp them to get the eyes and the buttons and the mouth, because those are, black, they're coal. I did decide later to pull out a Jelly Roll pen and fill in. I have this is a black glaze pen, and I'm just putting little dots of ink on the buttons, the eyes, and the mouth. And then I'm going to let this sit. I'm going to go have dinner with my husband and our children. And when it's all dry, I'm going to come back with my white Jelly Roll pen. Voila, here I am a couple of hours later, and add a little bit of shine to the buttons or the coal, whatever you want to call it, on the front of the snowman, and a little bit on the eyes. So I am using the Avriel stamp set, the snowman sentiments, and then also a birthday sentiment from Avriel to create greetings on these cards. On this first card, I want to use the warm wishes and then the birthday from that really large, birthday on that stamp set. But it's not going to fit straight up because I want the birthday to be kind of centered over the snowman. And then I will kind of put the warm and wishes on the top and bottom of that birthday word, sentiment, something like that. And I think this is the first time in ever that I've used this VersaFine Nocturne Black ink, and it hasn't stamped perfectly the first time. So that was, and it's probably because I have that oxide ink stamped in the background, or ink blended on in the background, rather. So here we are with the warm and wishes. So it's going to say warm birthday wishes, which is perfect for a cold card. One thing I want you to notice on these cards is that when we did the ink blending at the beginning, it was so dramatic. It looks super, super dark. But now that we have the snowman and the snowbanks colored in, or the shadows colored in, it is much milder. It's it's been knocked back quite substantially. So on the second card, I used just that large happy birthday sentiment. And on the third card, I used a small happy birthday sentiment. I do actually have quite a lot of January birthdays and February birthdays. Oh my gosh, I have a ton of February birthdays. My dad, my husband, my brother. I'm just tons of February birthdays. Okay, so we are going to card bases now. I have picked this kind of aqua-y blue. It matches that speckled egg distress oxide ink just a little bit darker hue. And I have off camera trimmed these panels down to be 4 by 5 1/4 inches so that they have a little bit of a frame around them. And I'm going to put a piece of white copy paper on the inside of the card. So there is a nice crisp place to write a birthday message to my niece or my nephew or my husband or my brother or my whoever, whoever gets this card, one of these cards. I don't typically, when I'm sending out cards to people I know, make a whole bunch of cards at once, but I really did want to spend some time talking about how to color snow and how to use your Christmas stamps for birthdays. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel. I hope you enjoyed this video. I have added a couple of other videos here I think you might like, as well as a subscribe button. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, I would love it if you did. Give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment below about how you color snow, and have a great